All right, Rabbi, say good morning. That's loud. Good morning. Good morning. Is it too loud? Too good. Good. Okay, perfect. Good. Excellent. All right, Rabbi, say good morning. Good morning. Good tavach. Good Chodesh. Begin by thanking our sponsors for this morning's shir. To thank our Talmud Torah sponsors for the month of Iyar, Haba Aleinu Latova, Stephen Teri Czinn, in honor of their newest grandson, Matan Shmuel Aharon, should be Zocha Meretz Hashem to grow to an incredible and accomplished Ben Torah Ameh Ve'esim Shanim Tovos. But with that, let us begin. Today's daf is Chof Hey 25, and we have the great Zuchos. To begin, so we'll say a really, really great daf, fascinating daf. Today, Sotah, every day is mamish a matana. So we'll say 3 lines down from the top. Chof Hey Amad Aleph 25a. Bailahu. So we'll say some really interesting cases today. So Bailahu, Overes al Das. If a woman is Overes, if she's in violation of Das, so we'll say, remember again, hearkening back to our good word, note to start the week. Hearkening, thank you. A little positive reinforcement from the Olam would be very helpful every once in a while. And I will say, so again, remember back to our Ksuvas days, we had the concept of Das Moshe and Das Yehudis. This concept that ultimately, again, if a woman is in violation of certain Judaic norms. Now again, so let's say a woman is Overes al Das. Again, Das, not Das. Das. So we'll see Rashi in just a moment. So he says, so we'll say, does she require a warning in order to be deprived of her ksuva, or does her behavior automatically deprive her of her ksuva? Fascinating shaila. So take a look at Rashi. Overes al Das. Rashi is 3 lines down from the top. Das Yehudis. See, Rashi says we're talking about Das Yehudis. Now, remember again, there's Das Yehudis and there's Das Moshe. Das Moshe is halacha. Remember again, the example of Das Moshe was a woman gives her husband untithed food. So obviously, again, that type of behavior is causing him to go ahead and be in violation of halacha. Das Yehudis really refers more, at least in this context, to standards of modesty. Standards of modesty. So look at Rashi. Das Yehudis shehinot tznuah. Let's see what happens if the wife is immodest. Now, what are the examples of immodesty? Yotza v'rosh perua. She goes out with her hair uncovered. V'tava b'shuk. U'midaberes and kol adam. Tava b'shuk also means she weaves in the marketplace. Now, you have to understand what's interesting about Das Yehudis is Das Yehudis often is reflective of whatever the contemporary norms are, right? So Rashi's giving examples. What's considered to be a lack of tznius? So again, Rashi's reflecting a societal norm as well. A woman goes out with her hair uncovered. What's weaving? So remember again, when a woman would be weaving, she'd be sitting like on a bench with one leg on each side of the bench. So sitting that way in a public setting would have been considered to be immodest. Midaberes im kol adam. Or she speaks with every man. Obviously, every man doesn't mean with every man, but she speaks with men. A lot of men. Darn b'ksuvas parakamadir diyotze shlo b'ksuva. Now I will say, so remember again, the Gemara Masechus Ksuvas said that if a woman goes out and is in violation of Das Yehudis, obviously we're talking about in violation on a consistent basis, that is grounds for forfeiture of her ksuva. So we'll say now the Gemara is asking a very specific shaila. Fascinating. Does a woman require hasra? Does there have to be a warning before the forfeiture of her ksuva or not for being in violation of Das Yehudis? Now Rashi says over here, tzricha hasra, shema tachzar. Now we'll say, now what's the chab? Why would we give hasra? So I will say, what's the rule of hasra? What's the rule of hasra? Sometimes a person is doing something that is wrong in what? And what? They don't know. They don't know that it's wrong. So the role of hasra is to tell a person, by the way, you know that what you're doing is incorrect. So there are one of 2 possibilities that happen after hasra. Possibility one. Person says, okay, I had no idea. Thank you so much for telling me. Now I'm going to change my ways. Possibility 2 is, I don't care, I'm doing it anyway. So we'll say, so the role of hasra, Rashi says there's shema tachzar. Maybe she'll do tshuva. V'im tachzar lo tafsik ksuvasa. And if she does tshuva, she shouldn't lose her ksuva. O eina tzricha hasra, tebalav hasra mafsida. So we'll say, so that's the shaila. So let's go with the fact. What's the fact? The fact is that when a woman is overes al das Yehudis, she's in violation of modesty norms. What's the halacha? She forfeits her ksuva. What's the shaila? Does she require hasra before the forfeiture or not? That's the shaila. So let's analyze. To which the Gemara says, Mi Arminan Kevan Doveres Adas He Lobaya Hasra. Do we say that, look, once you're in violation of Das Yisrael, right, you will say, by the way, it also includes Das Moshe, but it's even Das Yisrael. That's the point. Once she's in violation of what we call Das Yehudis. Once she's in violation of Das Yehudis, she doesn't require Hasra. O Dilma, Ti Baya Hasra. No, maybe she should require Hasra. Why? Di Baya Hadraba, Ti Hadraba. Give her the opportunity to correct her ways. Maybe in hers will say, one thing I think we come to learn in life as we get older is something that may be obvious and apparent to you. Like when we're young, we kind of think that everyone operates based on the same set of facts or the same sensitivities or the same knowledge. And as we get older, we recognize something that may be obvious to you, someone else may be totally clueless about. So that's the svara to say she should need hasra. In other words, maybe there's not any kind of negative intent over here. Maybe there's just someone who really just doesn't understand certain modesty norms. So give her the opportunity to go ahead and turn it around. So that's the shaila. Does she require hasra or not? So Tashma, let's analyze this. I will say it's actually the Gemara tries to bring a ride from our Mishnah. So Arusa v'shomeres yavim lo shosos v'lo not lo ksuva. I will say, remember again, the Mishnah spoke about the idea that in Arusa, right, in a shomeres yavim, remember again, in Arusa, a woman in Erisin has not yet done nisuin. Shomeres yavam, a woman who is waiting for her brother-in-law to do yibam. What's the halacha? Lo shosos, these women cannot be made to drink. Others will say, so just to play this out. So Reuven did Erisin with Rachel, right? He told Rachel not to be alone with Shimon. Rachel's in violation of the warning. Reuven cannot make her drink. And therefore again, v'lo not los ksuva. They also do not get a ksuva. Right? So the Gemara said, Mishtahu de lo shasya. Now I will say, well, here's what's interesting is, Reuven, in the case of, I'm just using Erisin, right? Reuven can't make her drink. Hakinuye matnila. Rabbi, what is interesting is, as much as she can't be made to drink, what can he do? He can administer a warning. Interesting. He can administer a warning in Erisin. So the Gemara says, now here's the shaila. If you can't make her drink, then what? What's the point of the warning? In other words, Rabbi say, well, here's what's interesting, right? The way the Mishnah is phrased is that halacha l'maisa in Erisin, an arusa doesn't drink the Sotah waters. So the fact that it says she doesn't drink tells us that he can administer a warning. Well, if a warning isn't going to lead to drinking, if kinui is not going to lead to shtia, to drinking, then what's the point of the warning? To which the Gemara says, Lamai, lav sida ksubasa. Oh, it must be what? It must be to make her lose the ksuba. In other words, that it must be that the power of administering a warning during Erisin is like this. Reuven did Erisin to Rachel, so you can imagine again. So he gives her an item of value. Hariat mekudesh li betaba zukidas moshe v'isor. Right? He gives her a ring, he gives her fruit, whatever he gives her. Now she's in Arusa. Not nisuin, they're not living together. She's in Arusa. He warns her. She violates the warning. Can't cause her to drink. But let's remember again a technical reason. Remember from yesterday's daf. Why can't she drink? Because tachas is sheikh. Remember again, the Sotah waters can only be drunk once a woman has lived with her husband. They're in Erisin. They haven't lived together yet. So what does the warning do? What the warning does do is, in the event that she violates it, she loses her ksuva. Now, what does that show you? That ultimately, that shows you that what? Prior to forfeiting a ksuva, a woman always requires hasra. Because essentially the kinui, the warning, right? The warning is a hasra. Right? That's what it's saying. In other words, I'm warning you not to do this. And if you do this, there'll be consequences. So too over here, we'd have to say the same thing if a woman is overes al das yehudis. If she's in violation of certain modesty norms, it would appear that she requires hasra prior to forfeiting her ksuva as well. Rabbi says, no, lo li asra alav. Not necessarily. The power of kinui by Erisin is that if she violates it, she becomes prohibited to her aros. In other words, it's true. Rachel can't drink because she's only in Erisin, but if she violates the warning, she becomes prohibited to her aros. Rav Papa says the role of a kinui during Erisin is lashkosa kishehi nesua. I will say this is fascinating. While it's true that you can't administer drinking of Sotah waters during Erisin, but a warning during Erusin could result in drinking during Nisuin. By the way, that's an absolutely true fact in general. Even if there's already warning going on during Erusin, there's going to be a lot of drinking going on during Nisuin. In other words, this is not a good shidduch. This is not a good shidduch. But okay, that's a different discussion. Anyway, so the Maisa, what's interesting to note about this is as follows. So as much as a warning during Erusin cannot trigger an obligation to drink during Erusin, a warning during Erusin could absolutely trigger an obligation to drink during Nisuin. In other words, the Havamina would have been that the only way to drink during Nisuin is how? With a warning during Nisuin. Kamash Malon, a warning during Erusin ultimately could be triggered and activated during Nisuin as well. Kidisanya, as we learned, Ein mekanin la arusa lashkosa kishi arusa. You can't warn an arusa to make her drink while she's in arusa. Aval mekanin la arusa lashkosa kishi nesua. Now let's say what you can do is you can administer a warning during Erusin that ultimately results in drinking during Nisuin. So we'll say, we're going to talk about that case. We're going to talk about that case a bit more. We'll say, but that is absolutely a fascinating idea. So therefore, we'll say, but remember, let's keep track of what our question. What's our question? Our question is, if a woman, here's what we know, a woman who is a veres al das Yehudis, what's the halacha? She loses her ksuba. That's the halacha. Like that we know. What's the shayla? Does she require hasra before that forfeiture or not? That's the shayla. So I will say, so we just tried to prove it from our Mishnah, didn't work. So let's move on. We're still focused on that question. Good. Amar Rava Tashma, let's analyze. So Tashma, but I will say, but again, what's beautiful in general about Gemara is in the process of trying to answer one question, we kind of acquire a number of other pieces of information along the way. So, for example, we learned before that halacha l'maisa, a man could administer a warning to his wife during Erusin. What's the impact of that warning? So, the impact of that warning is you can't make a woman drink during Erusin, as we saw in yesterday's daf. But what you can do is, with a warning during Erusin, could cause drinking during Nisuin. So, if she's in violation of the warning, let's say during Nisuin, that could trigger an obligation to drink, even though the warning was actually delivered during Erusin. Incredible. Back to our normal shiloh over here, our previous shiloh. Amarava, Tashma, let's analyze. Amar the Kohen Gadol, Gush v'chalutz the Kohen Hedyot, Mamzeres u'nesin liYisrael. So let's remember again, according to the Mishnah said that if an almana was married to a Kohen Gadol, right? Illegal marriage. Grusha v'chalutz the Kohen Hedyot, or a divorce, Yora chalutz to regular Kohen. Also illegal marriage. Mamzeres u'nesin liYisrael. Also illegal marriages. Bas Yisrael and Mamzer l'nesin. Right, a Bas Yisrael marries a Mamzer l'nesin. We'll say all examples of illegal marriages. First wide line. What's the halacha? Lo shosos v'lo not los ksuva. We'll say in all of these cases, whenever there is an illegal marriage can never trigger an obligation to drink. Right, so in all of these cases, I will say there's no obligation to drink. V'lo not los ksuva. But remember, these women do not get a ksuva. Right? Because it's an illegal marriage, they don't get a ksuva. Now watch this. So the Gemara says, Mishta hudalo shasya. The Rabbi say, she doesn't drink. Right? She doesn't drink of the waters. Ha kinuye maknila. The Rabbi say, you could still go ahead and administer a warning. Right? In other words, we'll say, what the Gemara is picking up on is in these examples of illegal marriages, what the Mishnah is saying is they don't drink. So drinking is a result. The Mishnah is inferring is they can't be made to drink the Sotah. But it sounds like what? You can administer kibui. You can administer a warning. Now, I will say, why? Now, what see what's saying? In our entire conception of ksuva of Sotah over the last 24 days, a warning is not an ends. Right? And a warning is a means. A means for what? Drinking. Right, that's the goal, but that's the result. That's the result of the mechanism of warning. So the Gemara is saying, if you have a situation where you know you can't administer the drinking, but yet I can administer a warning, what role does warning play if it can't result in drinking? Well, if you're going to tell me that ultimately the warning will prohibit the woman upon her husband, you don't need to worry about that in that case. Why? In this case, Hasir and Mekayim. I will say, in this example, all of these women are already prohibited to their husband, right? These are already illegal marriages. Rather, it must be that what? It must be that the role of the warning ultimately is to deprive the woman of her ksuva in this case. That's what's happening over here. It's to deprive her of a ksuva. And I will say, what do you see? So what do you see from here? What do you see from here? That in order to deprive a woman of a ksuva, what do you need? What do you need? Hasra. Hasra. And therefore, again, circling back, therefore, back to our original question, a woman who is overes al das Yehudis, right, ultimately, before depriving her of her ksuva, you have to go ahead and give her asra. To which the Gemara says, Amrav Yehuda me diskarta, lo, not necessarily, lo osra le boel kibal. Oh, very interesting. Actually, I will say in this context, where you're dealing with marriages that are already illegal, the role of the warning is actually to go, I will say, and to answer her to the adulterer like her husband. It's fascinating. So I will say, so remember again, in these cases that we're describing where they were already illegal marriages, let's play this out. Aaron, who's a Kohen Gadol, is married to Rachel, who's a Gerusha, or an Almana, right? Illegal marriage. So now what happens? Aaron warns Rachel. Rachel is in violation of the warning. Now I will say, so remember again, could Aaron administer the Sotah to her? No, why not? Already an illegal marriage, right? Illegal marriage. So I will say, so if that's the case, what's the role of the warning? The role of the warning is that if Rachel violates the warning, she becomes asura to Shimon, the possible adulterer. That's the power of the warning in this context. It answers her ultimately again to her adulterer. Kidisnan, kishem shasur lebal, kach asur leboal. We'll say, this is actually interesting. We'll talk about this more as well. There's a lot to talk about. And ultimately, again, the same way that the Sotah becomes asura to her husband, she also becomes asura to her adulterer. Okay? So Rabbi says, therefore, again, that's the role of the warning, not necessarily asura. So once again, we still have our original question unanswered. I'm Rabbi Chanin Mesura. Tashma. Ve'elu shebeizim ekana lahen. So we're going to attempt to answer this again. So once remembering it, back to our core question. A woman is overes al das Yehudis. She loses her ksuva. Does she require hasra, warning prior to losing her ksuva or not? We'll make another attempt to answer it. Here we go. Tashma. What's another quotation from the Mishnah? Ve'elu shebeizim ekana. Both says this is really interesting. There are situations, remember as we saw in the Mishnah, where Beis Din will administer a warning on behalf of the husband. Fascinating. What were these cases? Mishan is charish baila, someone whose husband became a deaf mute. Oh, nishtata, or the husband became insane. I saw in yesterday's daf. These are obviously not cases where, when did the husband go insane, or when did he become a deaf mute? After they got married, right? Because remember again, a cheresh cannot affect kiddushin. A shota, right? No marriage jokes over there, right? Right? I just want to say, so the nice again. So Jeremy is still a young guy. You know what? Don't taint his view of marriage. And I say so the nice again. So the nice remember, because if the man is a cheresh or if he's a shota, ultimately he can't affect legal marriage. So this is talking about a situation where he was quote unquote normal, right, at the time of marriage, and then unfortunately again suffered this health degradation afterwards. So now he can't administer the kinui because he lacks capacity. So Lamaisa again now Beis Din administers the kinui on his behalf. Incredible. Oh, Shechash Sasurin. Or we'll say he was incarcerated. I just want to be clear. He didn't do anything wrong. Right? I just want to be clear, right? This is right? It's just so important, right? He didn't do anything wrong. Yeah, somebody else did it. He got involved. Good. He's in jail. So Lamaisa again. Lamaisa. He can't do the kinui himself. And obviously, what's interesting, of course, in this context, this is also assuming that he is. When they say like chavash b'veis ha'asurin, so this is like he is away. He is away, right? Because technically speaking, there are ways that a man could go ahead and administer kinui, right? Even if he's not in proximity to his wife. So this has to be a chavash b'veis ha'asurin. Literally means that he is isolated. He's isolated. Okay. So we'll say. So what's the halacha? V'lo la'ashkosa amru el leposla miksuvasa. Now I will say here the Vice says, and I will say, what's the role? What's the role ultimately again in these cases? Not to cause her to drink. Not to cause her to drink, but ultimately, again, to cause her to lose her ksuva. cause loser ksuva. And I will say, now this is an explicit statement, that what's the role, because I will say, remember again, the problem with these cases, and we'll get into this more, the problem in this case over here is, especially where the husband is, legally lacks capacity to cause her to drink is not really going to be possible. So ultimately, again, if you can't cause her to drink, so what is the role of the kinui in these cases? Again, to deprive her of the ksuva. Therefore, I will say, what do you see from here? Shmamina, boy hasra, shmamina. I will say, what do you see from here? The halacha is that in order to deprive a woman of her ksuva, I will say, what does she require? Hasra. Hasra. Therefore, I will say, looping this back fully to our previous case, if a woman is overes al dasi ludis, a woman breaches modesty norms, whereas that is grounds for deprivation of her ksuva, it only works if what? If ultimately, again, first, there is a hasra. I will say, I just want to point out, so that is the halacha l'maisa. Halacha l'maisa. I will say, just understand the profundity of the hashkafa l'maisa. Remember, when the Gemara was talking about this, why would we say that a woman requires hasra prior to depriving her of the ksuba? Why should she get hasra? What was the lashon of the Gemara? What was the lashon? Di'i hadraba tihadraba. Shuva. In other words, I will say, just because someone's doing something wrong doesn't mean that they're a bad person. People do wrong things for all kinds of reasons. Sometimes it's because they don't know what they're doing is wrong. Sometimes they know what they're doing, but what? I don't know the full ramifications of my actions. Give a person a chance to right the ship, and more often than not, they'll take advantage of it. I will say, isn't that an incredible use? So that's the halacha is teaching us. Give a person the chance to right the ship, and more often than not, they will take advantage of it. The difference is just many of us need to have the error of our ways pointed out to us. Let's say that's the other yesod in this. A lot of times I'm just on a derech, and I'm so caught up in the derech, I don't even know that it's bad. I don't even know that it's wrong. The power of Hashem, I will say, is twofold. Number one, you have someone telling you, by the way, this is not right. This is not the right path to go on. This is not the right derech you're supposed to be going down. So to have someone in life who could tell you this is not the right path, that's number one. And to be given the opportunity to hear that this is not the right path. The Torah, Kadosh Baruch Hu, halacha believes in us. That's why hasra, I will say in general, by the way, that's why hasra is necessary. You can't execute someone without hasra. Generally, you can't punish without hasra. I will say why. Hasra is the ultimate belief in the goodness of man. What Hasra says is, the system believes in us. And the system believes that we're good. That's why the system is not going to punish without prior warning. Because we know that the majority of times, give a person a warning, the person's going to say, okay, let me right the ship. Incredible. So I will say, to me, this is such chizik, right? Whoever thought that you can get such chizik from Hasra. So we'll say, we often think of Hasra as, you got to warn someone before you punish them. No. Hasra is, you want to warn someone so that you don't punish them. Because we believe in the inherent good of man. That once he hears that what he's doing is incorrect, of course, I'm going to turn it around. Does it happen all the time? No, but Lamais, it happens the majority of the time. So therefore, of course, in this case, woman is Overes Adas Yehudis, Nebach. But Lamais, you can't deprive her of anything without Hasra. Give her Hasra, and ultimately, again, with the Hasra, I will say, comes the confidence in the inherent good of man to turn everything around. Incredible. V'kulumai time of the Arameha. So I'll say, by the way, let's just point out, this last statement, this last proof, is pretty conclusive. Right? Pretty conclusive. Again, I will say, this is an explicit statement that if the husband became a cheresh, or the husband is a shotah, or the husband is incarcerated, Beis Din could go ahead and administer a warning on his behalf. Now, what's the power of the warning? A warning from Beis Din can't make a woman drink. Right? That's for sure. Only a direct warning from a husband can make a woman drink. So what does the warning do? It causes her to lose her ksuva. So we'll say that's an explicit statement that says a woman can't be deprived of her ksuva unless, of course, she has a warning. So why are we going through all of the steps? Right, on this entire daf of Gemara, why doesn't everyone just point to this proof? To which the Gemara says, I'll tell you, Dilma Shtaini Hasam, the Leslie Imsa the Bal Klal. We'll say it's possible that these cases are different. Right? These cases are different. Why? In the case of Cheresh, when the husband is a Cheresh or a Sotah is incarcerated, they will say, what's the common denominator in all of these cases? There's no husband present. There's no husband present. Right? So because there's no husband present, there's no imsa de baal, there's no like reverence or fear or just cognition of a husband present, right? There's no husband presence. Maybe she feels much freer to do whatever it is that she wants. That's when there has to be a hasra. But in a regular case, where there's a present husband, perhaps hasra should not be necessary to deprive her of her ksuva. Kamash malano. Kamash on that even when there's a husband present, ultimately again you still require hasra. Incredible. To which the Gemara says as follows. Ibaylo. So we'll say, so that's good. So we've resolved issue number one. Halacha l'maisa, no depriving of a ksuva without a prior hasra. That's halacha l'maisa and tashkafa l'maisa. Ibaylo. Overes was a great case. Overes adas, v'rotza bal l'kaima. Let's listen to this. What if you have a woman who's overes adas, right? She again, go back to our previous, let's assume we're talking about even, right, das Yehudis, right? She is in breach, in clear breach of modesty standards, and in consistent breach of modesty standards. So we'll say in general the halacha is, in such a situation, husband is obligated to divorce his wife, and halacha should lose her ksuva. Let's say the husband doesn't want to divorce her. Right? The right, raza ba'al l'kaima, makaima. Ultimately, again, does he have the ability to stay married to a woman like this? But isn't it a fascinating shaila? Right? I will say, by the way, you can come up with 1,000,001 different reasons for this. She's a great mother, right? I will say, by the way, there's also some idea, is she's a person who's struggling with Yiddishkeit and just, in a variety of different things. Judaism is just not her thing. But again, maybe there are many other things in the marriage that ultimately, again, are whatever the mitzias is. He doesn't want to divorce her. So does he have the ability? So now a woman is overes aldas. Now, does he have the ability to maintain this marriage or not? I will say, do we say in general, this whole thing is dependent on the hakpada of the husband? Or as I will say, that the husband is makpid that his wife behave a certain way or not behave in a certain way. And Lamaisa again, if he's okay with it, he's okay with it. The other possibility is no. Kevan de kapid. The other possibility is that no, at the end of the day, there's a certain like objective kapeda that exists. Look at Rashi. Rashi says over here, Dilma kevan de kapid kilomar, kevan de archi de bala mikbid bahachi, al korche de hainami havya kapeda lagabe. So say essentially what the Gemara is asking is this a subjective kapeda or an objective kapeda? So do we say, again, I'll say, there's a norm, right? There's a standard that has to exist within a marriage, that has to exist within a Jewish home. And if a woman is in violation of that standard, this is not a marriage. Whether her husband is okay with it or not is irrelevant. Or do we say no, that halacha l'maisa, it's dependent on the kapeda of the husband. And if the husband's not makbid, the husband's not makbid. It was such a profound shaila. So tashma, these are the people that Beis Din administers a warning for mishin is charish baila onishtata o shayucha b'shoy sasurin. So remember again, the Mishnah spoke about these ideas, these cases of situations where Beis Din could administer a warning. What were the cases? Husband is a shotah, husband is a chirish, or husband is incarcerated. The Amrit Ratza Bal Lekaiman Makaimin of the Beis Din Midi di Dilma Lo Nechale Labal. That I will say, if you see that a husband has a right to maintain a wife who acts immorally, so how could Beis Din administer a warning for something that the husband himself may actually be okay with? In other words, remember again, let's play this out. What's happening over here? Ruvain, let's use the case of incarcerated, right? Ruvain's incarcerated. Ruvain's wife, Rachel, is acting in what appears to be an immoral fashion. So what does the Mishnah say? The Mishnah says that Beis Din has the right to go ahead and administer a warning on Ruvain's behalf to Rachel. But 1 second. If all of this is subjective, why should Beis Din have a right to do something that maybe Ruvain would say, it's fine. In other words, we'll say, the fact that Beis Din has a right to do something on behalf of the husband indicates that what? That clearly there's an objective standard that must be in play. To which the Gemara says, of the based in midi the domalonechale labal. To which the Gemara says, no. Stama de milsa, kevan da averes adas haminach nechale. I will say there's an assumption. And what's the assumption? The assumption is that halacha l'maisa, most husbands would not be okay with this kind of behavior. As well say, see, right, could there be a husband who says, I don't care? Yeah, then there are husbands like that, which is a strange dynamic and phenomenon. But l'maisa, Beis Din operates based on the norm. Let's say, just like everything else in halacha, you always have outliers. But we assume that stam husband doesn't want his wife behaving in what appears to be in a moral fashion, and Beis Din acts on the norm. So we'll say, I'll just point out, halacha l'maisa, how do we paskin in this case? Because it's actually quite a fascinating shaila to contemplate. So I'll actually mention to you, let me see if I have it pulled up over here. I don't think I have it pulled up. Sorry. So we'll say, so this is actually the Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch brings down in Siman Kuf Tes Vav Sif Dalid. So we'll say, so just Evana Ezer Kuf Tes Vav Sif Dalid. So we'll say, so just to give you the context, the Shulchan Aruch over here is discussing the halachos concerning a woman who is in violation of Das Yehudis, which is our entire conversation over here, right? Which essentially is a woman who publicly goes against modesty norms. So again, without delving into all the intricacies, the bottom line is, whatever that exactly means, but the bottom line is, it's grounds for divorce, and forfeiture of her ksuva. So we'll say, now listen to this. So the Shulchan Aruch says, I'm just going to quote to you. So I will say, so the Shulchan Aruch says, listen to this. Get ready for this line. V'im ratzah l'kayim osa. I'll say, let's say at the end of the day, it's true, she's in violation of Das Yehudis, right? She's not behaving the way that she should. And it's clear that this is grounds for dissolution of the marriage, ultimately again, and forfeiture of the ksuva. But Reuven says, I love her anyway. They say love is blind, which is the most ridiculous statement. But okay, right? Okay, fine. They say love is blind, right? He says, I want to stay with her regardless. What's the halacha? Listen to this. Ein kofin osa lahotzia. We don't force him. We do not force him to divorce her. Mikamakom mitzvah alav shiyotziena. But if he asks, what should I do? The right thing is, this is not a marriage. Right? Just to be clear, I'll say, by the way, it's not a marriage either way, right? It's not a marriage when the man is acting immorally. It's not a marriage when the woman is acting immorally. But Lamaisa, if he says, I want to stay married, right? Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's close to April 15th, he needs the deduction, right? Lamaisa, whatever it is, right? I want to stay married. We do not force him to get divorced. So we'll say, I will just tell you, this is in general part of a halachic motif that at a certain point, halacha makes a decision not to get involved in people's marriages. I'll give you another example. That's what we'll say. The halacha is, we saw this in Masechtas Ksuvos as well, that a man is not really supposed to marry a much older woman with whom he cannot have children. We're talking about a man who has not had children. So let's say a man has not fulfilled Peri V'Rivya. And again, he falls in love with a much older woman who's not going to have children. So I will say, it's Mufurshik Masechtas Ksuvos that he should not marry her. So the Shulchan Aruch paskins, he should not marry her. But if he chooses to marry her, he marries her. In other words, it's interesting how halacha kind of at a certain point, obviously I will say, I want to point out, obviously if there's like adultery or things like that, then the halacha of course gets involved. But in these kind of interesting cases where again you have a little bit of a gray area, the halacha tells you what to do, but then ultimately leaves it to people to manage the private affairs of their personal marriages. So here's a perfect example. We're supposed to say, that's how I pass in the Gemara. That's like this Gemara. So again, a woman is a veres al das Yehudis. Should the man divorce her? Yeah. Does she lose her ksuva? Yeah. But if he says, I want to stay with her anyway, halacha l'maisa again in kofano. So we do not force him to go ahead and get divorced. Incredible. Good. Let's go weiter. What do you mean?
No, in other words, if there is a problem and you have therapy, to say, talk to the couple.
Yeah, no, halacha doesn't mandate therapy. I mean, probably it's definitely a good idea. But lamaisa, like halacha is either be married or get divorced. Right? Halacha is not going to get into, here are the stages to fix you. No, it's a legal system. So in a legal system, mutter aser. right? Kasher treif, tamei tar. So be married, get divorced. Allah says in this case, Overes Hadas Yudis, get divorced. You choose not to, fine. Yeah, I think if you stay married, probably get a little bit of help to rehabilitate this relationship. Enach inami. Good. Rabbi says kavayt. Ibaylo. Overes Hadas v'rotza ba'al kaima kaima. Fine. So let's say we did that. Good. Ibaylo. Baal shemacha al kinuyav machal in machal. Say these are just great cases. Listen to this. We'll say Reuven is married to Rachel. Reuven is married to Rachel. And then what happens? Right. He warns Rachel not to be alone with Shimon. We'll say now what happens afterwards? Now after the fact, he wants to be mochel on his warning. Was he mochel on his warning? Then we'll say, now why does he want to be mochel on his warning? So we'll say, so there could be a variety of reasons for it. First of all, remember again, once you make that warning, if she's alone with Shimon, right? If she's alone with Shimon, we'll say that activates a whole process that you cannot dial back. So Lamaisa, again, Reuven could just have charata over going ahead and issuing the warning, right? Or Rabbi, you have to imagine the following. We'll say also, we don't touch on this in this Gemara. To me, one of the most intriguing dynamics of Sotah is how exactly the marital dynamic is in the home after this process is initiated. Like, in other words, obviously you're talking about a husband who doesn't trust his wife, right? To the point, by the way, that he's warning her in front of witnesses not to be alone with Shimon. Now, you could imagine that a husband could do that in a moment of jealousy or in a moment of, but again, it would be, Gemara is not talking about that. And obviously, again, marital dynamics are also different in times of the Gemara than they are today. But it must be fascinating to see just what the home looks like and what the marriage looks like after a warning like that. As the Rabbi say, in every marriage, there are things that sometimes a husband says to his wife that, of course, instantaneously he regrets, right? And he wishes more than anything he could take it back. And what you learn in marriage is what? You can't take it back. So you can apologize, right? And you can work on righting the ship. But Lamaisa, those words are always, I was saying, sometimes in a marriage, there are words that are never forgotten. And there are words that never go away. You could rehabilitate the relationship, but it's like this, it's this thing that's always there. We learn this in relationships. Things can be forgiven, but they are never forgotten. Right? And that's why in general in marriage, a husband always has to be so careful what he says and how he says it. Because you can say the wrong thing and be forgiven, but again, when words sting and when words hurt, so it's interesting. You can have a situation of a husband who made this kinoi and then say, no, I don't want this. The shaila is, can you walk it back? Right? Is there ultimately, again, can you have mechila? Can you be mochal on a kinoi or not? Mi aminun bekinoi de bal tal rachmana ubahu machale lekinoi. So let's say on one hand we can say, listen, the kinoi is done by the husband, so the husband could choose to walk it back. The husband made it, and therefore there's a mochal on it. O dilma kevan de kani le mi kara la masi machale. Or maybe not. Maybe look, once you make that kinoi, I will say, it's an interesting idea. It's true. It's up to the husband to make the warning, to make the kinoi. But once you do it, there's a process that takes over, right? And that process, you really no longer have control over. It's such a fascinating shayla. So do we say that since it's the husband who administered the warning, it's the husband who can be mochel and walk it back? Or do we say, no, it's the husband who makes the warning, but once you make it, you have triggered a process that you no longer maintain control over. To which the Gemara says, let's analyze. So Tashma, they lusha based in the Kanalohen. These are the ones who, right? These are the women who these are the situations where based in administers a kinui on behalf of the husband. They'll say, what are the cases? We'll say same case. Husband goes insane, husband becomes a deaf mute, or husband is incarcerated. So what's the halacha? Now again, if you say that when a husband warns his wife, if he wants to forgive, he can forgive and walk back to the kinui. Avdinan midi de asi bal mochile. I will say, would Beis Din do something that the husband could then subsequently say, no, I'm mochalon? So we'll say, so it seems to be from here, the fact that Beis Din does it indicates to us that what? Once a kinui is done, it can't be walked back. To which the Gemara says, no. The Gemara says, Stama de milsa, Adam maskim al das Beis Din. Then we'll say, once again, same answer as we saw before, Beis Din operates based on the norm. And I both say the norm is that a husband would be in agreement with whatever Beis Din does. And if Beis Din saw fit to administer a kinui over here, husband would agree as well. So still we haven't answered our question. So Tashma, almost no shnei talmidei chachamim shami yaval al derech. So we'll talk about this more. We'll talk about what it is. We made reference to this already, but we'll talk about this process more. Beis Din, remember again, I will say, after, just to frame where we are, Reuven warned Rachel in front of two witnesses. She violated the warning in front of, right? She violated the warning. Now, you're going up to the base HaMikdash for her to drink the Sotah waters. What happens? The local Beis Din gives them two Talmidei Chachamim to accompany them on the journey to Yerushalayim. Now, why? Why? Most of the Shaitan, Shema Yaval Abaderech. I will say, now, the restated reason was because in the event that the husband wants to have relations with his wife, the two Talmidei Chacham will tell him, don't do it, because if you do it, it totally undermines the Sotah process. The Amrit Baal Shemachal al Kinui of Machal, Lachle Likinui Uvlilo. I will say, but again, if a kinui could really be forgiven, and the husband wants to have relations with his wife, so fine. So just go ahead and have him forgive the kinui, and ultimately, again, then he can have relations with her. So we'll say, why do you Talmidei Chachamim there? Because Talmidei Chachamim are well versed, and they could say, Di'i bar lemival amrile achle likinuyach uba'ala. So we'll say, again, maybe the role of Talmidei Chachamim are there to tell him, listen, if you want to have relations with your wife, that's fine, but first, be mochel on your kinui. So it sounds like, and that's what Talmidei Chachamim, to tell him that be mochel on your kinui before you're with her. To which the Gemara says, Tashma, Dam Rabbi Yoshia, Shlosha Dvarim, is incredible. It's incredible Gemara. So we'll say, so again, we still have not, so the question is still there. Husband administers a kinui, does he have the ability to go ahead and walk it back or not? We'll say, get ready for this. Tashma, Dam Rabbi Yoshia, Shlosha Dvarim Sach Li Zira Me Anshe Yerushalayim. So what Rabbi Yoshia said, there are three things that Zira told me over in the name of the men of Yerushalayim. What did he tell me over? Number one, Bal Shemachal al Kinuyav Machal. Interesting. That if a husband forgives the kinui is in fact forgiven. That's number one. Zakin Mamre. Sheratzu based in Limchal al Mochalalo. Now, who's a Zakin Mamre? Zakin Mamre is a Talmid Chacham, ultimately again, who refuses to yield to the rulings of the Beis Din. Now, I will say, what's the punishment for the Zakin Mamre? Execution. So ultimately, again, a Zakin Mamre, that if Beis Din want to forgive him, let's say the Zakin Mamre did tshuva. Ultimately, again, they want to forgive him, they could forgive him. Uben sorer umora, sheratzu aviv v'imo limchalo mochinalo. Wow. I was saying the ben sorer umora, which also means like a confirmed ben sorer umora, whose parents want to forgive him, they could forgive him. They can forgive. We'll say, isn't that incredible? So 3 cases of forgiveness. Right? Ziri said he heard from the men of Yerushalayim. If a man wants to forgive the kinui, he can forgive it. Beis Din wants to forgive the death sentence of a Zakin Mamre, rebellious sage, they can do so. Parents want to forgive the Ben Sorer Amora, they have the ability to do so as well. Incredible. So let's listen to this. When I came to my friends, my rabbinic colleagues in the south, they told me, Al Shnayim Holduli. They agreed to me on 2 cases, 2 out of the 3. The Al Zakin Mamre Lo Holduli. So Rabbi said, listen to this. They agreed to me about Kinui. They agreed to me about Ben Sora Rumora. But they did not agree to me about Zakin Mamre. Why? I will say, get ready for this. Shalo Yirbu Machlokes B'Yisrael. I will say, listen to this. So Rabbi Yoshia says, when I came to my colleagues in the south, they said, okay, a husband administered kinui and then wants to be mocha, wants to quote unquote forgive. The kinui, he has the ability to do that. Parents bring their child to Beis Din because he's Ben Sora Mora, and they declare Ben Sora Mora, now he's about to be executed. They want to forgive him, they can do that. Zakin Mamre, I will say, what's the chap of the Zakin Mamre? Zakin Mamre refuses to yield to the halachic rulings of the collective. So Ziri said, that one can't be forgiven. Why not? Because I will say, Sotah is an issue between a husband and wife. Ben Sora Remora, an issue between parents and children. Right? So we'll say, so those situations can be forgiven. Zokin Mamre is an issue of machlokes within Klal Yisrael. And there is no room and there is no place for machlokes within Klal Yisrael. Someone wants to create a fissure, someone wants to create a rupture within the uniformity, at least of Torah of Klal Yisrael. That's an existential danger to the people, and that there could be no vestige of that. So once you're a Zakin Mamre, there's no walking that back. I will say, so if you think about it, it's a really profound idea. Let's say, if you think about this, what the Gemara is saying is like this. When there is a fallout in a marriage, right? That's what kinui represents. When there's a fallout in marriage, could that be repaired? Can that be repaired? So I'll say, I don't know. That's Kramkin. We'll confirm or deny this. I'm of the feeling that when there is a breakdown in a marriage, if you have a husband and a wife who are committed to fixing something, there is almost nothing you cannot fix. True statement? Right? Almost, in other words, two people, absolute commitment, that's the chap. The husband wants to be mocha on the kinui, husband and wife want to work on fixing this relationship. If they are both committed to fixing it, they can fix it. Ben Sora Remora, there's a fallout between parents and children. If there's a commitment on parents to understand their child and a commitment to a child to try to be sensitive to the parents, there's almost nothing you cannot fix. When it comes to Klal Yisrael, to the nation, the shalom of the nation, I will say, the shalom of the nation is above anything and everything else. Nothing comes above, ultimately, again, the shalom of Klal Yisrael. That is sacrosanct. That can I also say? And if you think about this, it's so interesting. When you look at what's happening within Klal Yisrael now, within Eretz Yisrael now, let's say it's painful, right? It's painful when you read in the news about the remembrance is being planned for Yom HaZikaron, and again, politicians don't come here, don't come this, right? And it's like it's and even, by the way, even in the way, like even when you look at what's happening in the IDF, like it's I don't know, the army was generally above anything else, and the notion of soldiers refusing to serve, or because it's scary, it's a rupture. There is a certain rupture in the fabric of the cohesion of Am Yisrael, it's Am Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael, which is, it's startling. It's startling. Again, could it be repaired? Everything could be repaired. Everything could be repaired. But it's an overall, I just want to point out, do not take it lightly. We've never, has there been machlokes in Am Yisrael all the time, but the truth is, we're seeing something here that's something very scary. It's something very scary, and something at least that I feel like I've never seen on such a dramatic level. And it obviously it behooves us to redouble our efforts in Avas Yisrael and our efforts in Achdus Yisrael in any way that we can. Because Rosi is, you could forgive the Ben Sora Mora, you could forgive the Sotah, you cannot forgive the Zakim Mamre. Because if you do something to undermine the cohesion and the Achdus of Am Yisrael, you're out. You're out. If you're not a team player, if you're not on Team Klal Yisrael, there's no place for you. In Team Klal Yisrael, there are a lot of opinions. Of course. A lot of different camps, of course. But remember, who's the Zakin Mamre? The Zakin Mamre is the person who refuses to be part of the system, right? The Beis Din, the Sanhedrin, is saying this is the halacha. The Sanhedrin, right? The Sanhedrin. And the Zakin Mamre says, no, I'm as big of a Talmid Chacham as all of you guys. All right, so I'm not... Okay, sorry. There's no refuah. I'll tell you, I saw something amazing. In the Sefer Ber Moshe, he brings down that Moshe Rabbeinu was the Anav Mikol Adam. Like Moshe Rabbeinu was always the most humble man. So Ber Moshe asks, he says that in the Machlokes of Korach, why didn't Moshe just give in? Right? Just give in. Right? You're Mevater. Say, Korach, you know what? You want to be the leader here. Right, here's the mantle, right, here's the staff, here it is. Or is Moshe, you're so humble, give in. Ber Moshe says because Moshe saw that what Korach was doing was eroding the fabric of unity of Klal Yisrael. And when it comes to the unity of Klal Yisrael, there is no place for humility. Isn't that incredible? See, even Moshe Rabbeinu, who was Va'ish Moshe Anav Mikal Adam. There's no one more humble than Moshe. When Moshe Rabbeinu sees a threat to the unity of Klal Yisrael, he will stand up for what's right, wield the power that is rightfully his, and put whoever needs to be put in their place. It's incredible. There's room to be mavater, and there's room to yield, and there's room to compromise. But on the cohesion and unity of the Am, Rabbi said that's the only reason why we're here to this very day. When it comes to the creation of Klal Yisrael, and Rabbi said you have to think about this carefully, because a lot of times, like, we get involved in things that erode the unity of Klal Yisrael. Be careful what you allow yourself to get drawn into. Be careful what you argue about. Be careful what things you choose to take a stand on. Because there's a lot of room for a lot of different opinions, but nothing that erodes the cohesion of Klal Yisrael. This is so incredible, so incredible. So again, you can mend your marriage no matter what, if you're both willing. You can mend your relationship with your children no matter what, if you're both willing. But the one thing that can't be mended once it's broken is the cohesion of the Klal. That's why we have to be so careful to never chas v'shalom break it, and do whatever we can, even within our own dalaramas, to promote Jewish unity, to promote achdus, to promote togetherness within our ranks. Incredible. Well, so let's go weiter. Oh, what's about it? Amud Beis is very short. I don't want you to get worried about this. It's very short. Don't worry about it. I got this. Let's go. Actually, oh no. All right, it's late. Let's go weiter. Very quickly. Shema Mina. What's the bottom line? What's the bottom? Shema Mina. Baal shemachal al kinuyev machshavos. So it's good. Bottom line, halacha l'maisa. What's the halacha? If a husband is mochal on his warning, it's mochal. And that is halacha l'maisa. So if after the warning, the husband has second thoughts about this whole thing, he could choose to forgive, so that he mochal on the warning. So pligi b'ravacha Ravina Chat Amar Kodem Stira Mochal Lachshim Mochal. Now here's the shaila. When can he be mochal? Right? When can he be mochal? In other words, so remember again, can he only be mochal before stira or even after stira? Good kasha. So let's say Chad Amar Kodem Stira Mochal Lachar Stira Eina Mochal. First opinion said before she's secluded he can be mochal. Afterwards he cannot. V'chad Amar Li Achar Stira Nami Mochal. The other opinion said even after stira, ultimately again he can be mochal. Mistabra Kimam Da Amar Eino Mochal. Well, it would appear to be that the halacha is he can only be mochal prior to stira, prior to seclusion, but not afterwards. Mimai midikama hadri Rabbanan Rabbi Yossi. Let's listen to the following things. The Sanya Rabbi Yossi Omer. A husband, I will say, in general is believed. This is talking about, again, so Rabbi Yossi holds that when they go up to Yerushalayim, they do not need the two Talmidei Chachamim to accompany them. Right? Because the husband is believed that he's not going to have relations with his wife. Why is he believed? Because the Chomer, Umani does she be kares baileneman aleha, Shabbos say nida, which is punishable by kares. So a husband is allowed to live with his wife when she's in Ida, and we're not nervous that he's going to have relations with her. Sotah shibalav lakol shekim. Sotah ultimately again certainly should be relieved. Amrullah said about Rabbi Yossi, Imamre benida shekin yishla heter. Here's the difference. We'll say Anida. Ultimately, again, she becomes permitted after 12 days. When she goes to the mikvah, she becomes permitted. Tamar besota she'ein lo heter. Ultimately, again, besota does not become permitted. Or as we'll say, she may become permitted after she drinks the water, but for now, as far as they're concerned, she's prohibited. And then we're saying, "V'i amrit la'achar stira malchola mishkachas la'diyesh laheter di boy mochel eli kinuye boil." But if it's true that you could be mochel even after stira, then the truth is Sotah is also permitted. How is she permitted? He can be moch on the entire process. What do you see from here? Ela shmamina la'achar stira eina machol shmamina. Shabbos say, what do you see from here? You see from here that Allah chalamaisa, the only time ultimately again that he could be mochal on the kinui is when? Is ultimately again before the stira. But once the stira occurs, halacha l'maisa, he can no longer be mochel. And both say that indeed is halacha l'maisa. So two pieces of halacha. Number one, if a husband administers a kinui, he has the ability to go ahead and forgive it. That's piece one. But piece two, he can only forgive it up until the time of stira, which makes sense. Once stira happens, Rabbi say now there's a whole new part of the process that's been triggered that he no longer has control over. So halacha l'maisa, he can be mochel on kinui only up until stira. Incredible. Mesu bali and achlo shasu b'shem. So let's remember again. In this last piece, this is talking about a situation, ultimately again, where halacha l'maisa, what was the case over here? Mesu ba'alehen. This was, right. So this was Rabbi say, halacha l'maisa, what happens if You had a situation of Reuven married to Rachel, right? Now what happens? She's a Sotah. In other words, Kinui, Stira, they're going up, they're there, they're on the way up, whatever it is. Before they went up, he dies. So now we'll say she's in a state where she's obligated to drink, but her husband's dead. So obviously, again, the only time the Sotah waters are administered is if you have a living husband. So what happens in this case? So we'll say, so this was a machlokes, Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. So Beis Shammai says she gets her ksuva, and obviously she doesn't drink. In other words, we'll say not drinking is obvious. If there's no she can't drink. Beis Hillel says either she drinks or ultimately she gets her ksuva. And I will say, what does it mean? Either she drinks or she gets her ksuva. Obviously, she can't drink, right? Why can't she drink? No husband. So which means is she doesn't get her ksuva. So essentially, Beis Shammai says she gets her ksuva, Beis Hillel she doesn't get her ksuva. To which the Gemara says, this is incredible. But my comment is great. What are they arguing about? Beis Shammai savri shtar haomid legabos ki gaboy dame. I will say Beis Shammai holds that in general, when you are owed money, it's as if you're already in possession of that money. Anytime you're owed something, it's as if legally you are in possession of that item. Right? The Bible says it's true in general. In other words, I loan Reuven $1 million, right? Reuven owes me $1 million. Halachically, it's like as if I am in possession of that money. So I'll say, according to Shammai, what this means is like this. A woman is owed her ksuva. So legally, it is as if she is in possession of that ksuva. It's hers. I will say, so essentially, halacha l'maisa, according to Beis Shammai, when her husband dies, so right, she is in legal possession of the ksuva, which means if the heirs don't want to pay the ksuva, what's the halacha? The obligation is upon them to show that she committed adultery. It would be a motzi mechavera alav haraya. She is considered to be in possession, so to speak, and therefore, again, the burden of proof is upon the yarsha. Beis Hillel say, if you take a look at the fine, let's just go back, right? Beis Hillel say on the Beis Hillel savri shtar haomi legabos lav ki gaboy dame. Beis Hillel said no. That halacha ma'aseh, just because you have a claim or you have a right? So a legal right or a legal entitlement does not give you possession. So Hillel says that because it doesn't give you possession, therefore, when her husband dies, Beis Hillel is going to say essentially the woman the burden of proof is upon the woman to prove that what? That she didn't commit adultery. We'll say, so ultimately, again, the burden of proof is upon her to prove ultimately, again, that she's innocent. Obviously, again, there's not going to be the ability that she's going to prove herself innocent. Look at Rashi just a moment. Essentially, again, I will say, the Yarshim, the heirs, or the estate, they are the definitive owners of the ksuva. If she wants to extract it, she has to somehow make a claim that she's entitled. So unless somehow she could conclusively prove her innocence, l'maisa, again, she's going to be unable to extract the ksuva. So therefore, I will say, it's fascinating. So therefore, Allah l'maisa, in this case over here, where husband dies and she did not have the opportunity to drink, Beis Shammai says she gets her ksuva because he views ksuva as already in the possession of the woman, and therefore, again, it's upon the estate to prove that she's not entitled. But Lamaisa Beis Hillel holds that halacha Lamaisa, no, she's not in possession of the ksuva, and therefore either she drinks or gets the ksuva. Because she can't drink, she's not going to get the ksuva. Okay, we'll say, by the way, halacha Lamaisa, the Rambam Paskins, like Beis Hillel. But and then she doesn't get ksuva. We'll talk more about that in just a little bit. 2 more lines. We'll say 2 more lines, then we stop for today. So Mubaras Havero. So I will say, here we go. Mubaras Havero. This was the case ultimately again of a man who entered into an illegal relationship, right? We'll say a man is not permitted to marry a woman who is pregnant with someone else's child. Just like a man is not permitted to marry a woman who is nursing someone else's child. Why? The concern is that if she becomes pregnant, ultimately again could diminish the milk supply or chas v'shalom. Right, good, fine. So these are illegal marriages. So we're talking about a situation where a man married one of these women and then she became a Sotah. Machlokes, here we go, ba'akara uzikena. The machlokes ultimately, again, is if he married ultimately an older woman, right? Akara, I should say, a sterile woman or an older woman. I will say women incapable of having children. Aval islandis, divrei hakol lo shosiv lo natelis ksuvasa. I will say something. An islandist, I will say, what's an islandist? An islandist, remember again, is a woman who never develops as a woman. Ultimately telling us that she just lacks the reproductive organs. Or we'll say, as opposed to an akara or a zakena, Karzakina are women who have the reproductive organs. Either they're too old, like a woman's too old, or Lamaisa, again, there's some other medical issue. But Lamaisa, she has the physical reproductive organs. An islandist doesn't have the reproductive organs at all. And an islandist, I will say, everyone agrees, Lo shosiv lo notelis ksubasa. She doesn't drink, nor does she go ahead and get a ksuba. Shneemar, v'niksa v'nizra. Nizra zera. Because I will say, the pasuk says, ultimately by Sotah, that if she's innocent, v'niksa v'nizra zera, that ultimately, again, she'll be able to have children. Mi shedarka lahazriya, yotzazu she'in darka lahazriya. So we'll say, what do you see from here? Sotah only includes a woman who is capable of conceiving. But a woman who is totally, like, physiologically incapable of conceiving, she doesn't have the reproductive system, ultimately, again, she is not subject to the Sotah process, and therefore an islandess will not be. So we'll stop over here for today. We'll pick up and answer with the sugya tomorrow. Shkoyach. All right, Chavran Zoom, have a great day, everyone. What a start, what a start. Such a schoslomer to all of you. Mel, great to see you in person.